Rebecca Gill has a well-rounded business background and over 20 years of experience in sales and online marketing. She's the president and founder of Web Savvy Marketing. In addition to running the daily activities of Web Savvy Marketing, Rebecca also provides SEO consulting for clients and runs a membership site called the Digital Marketing Kitchen. She loves to teach others how to use SEO to grow their online footprint. Her SEO work and training have been featured in Copy Blogger, Entrepreneur on Fire, GoDaddy, HubSpot, Marketo, and many more. And we are going to be talking about how organic SEO will drive self-qualified traffic that converts in a shorter period of time. I think this is such an important topic because so many people are really intimidated by SEO. So welcome, Rebecca. We're excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. The intimidation is my goal in life, is to take that away because anybody can do SEO, and I'm a really firm believer in that.
You know, when I saw your topic and I got really excited because I've had so many clients pay the big SEO firms and they pay a lot and they don't get the traction coming back. And I've always felt like there's this disconnect because they just don't understand what they need to be watching or monitoring or asking about. And so they end up paying the ignorance tax, which is if you're hiring somebody to do something that you don't understand at all, it could go well or it could be a real expensive mistake. So I am like stoked to dive into this. So the first question I have for you is, let's actually start at the very beginning. Define organic SEO for people who maybe are new to that concept.
Okay, so organic SEO just means that you are creating content in some form and you're positioning it so the search engines can easily find it. They can understand what that content is and they know how to use it in search to basically solve people's problems. And you know, your target is working towards helping the search engines. And when you help the search engines, you in turn help yourself. And it's really, when you boil it down to that, you know, to that level, it's much more digestible. I don't like people to have to cut up in algorithms and, you know, that type of thing, because it gets very intimidating. You know, as long as you're focusing on the human and, you know, you're working to make the lives better of those human visitors, that's really the heart of SEO.
So let's talk about why SEO is such an important part for filling your sales pipeline.
So I started with SEO over 15 years ago, and the reason I did was because if we got in the door with a lead, we would sell it 80% of the time. Unfortunately, we had no leads, and it was, you know, a big price. It was a software package that was well over $100,000. And what I quickly learned and why I fell in love with SEO was for 5 different reasons. The first one is it's very highly targeted traffic. When right, the people that are coming into your site are your target demographic. They're the exact people that you want to interact with. And this happens because, number 2, people self-qualify themselves as they come in through SEO. They're putting search terms in that directly relate to what you do and who you help. So they're already self-qualified and you're not getting a whole bunch of garbage leads and activity that isn't going to generate any revenue. The third thing is that you get to reach people at various places in the buying cycle. So it's not just, you know, at the very end when they're price conscious, you're getting them in all different phases when you do SEO right. There's also, there's no limitations on budget, right? Because SEO is something that you do and not something that you have to pay for if you're doing it yourself, you're at endless opportunities, and there is no budget limitations. And then the last reason is because it lasts for a really long time. Content I created and optimized 15 years ago still sits on page 1 and is still bringing in that, you know, that traffic to that company. And you can't get that with anything else like pay-per-click. I always, you know, joke that it's cocaine for marketers because you pay a bunch of money and you get a quick high, but then it's gone and there's nothing there, you know, for you to sustain on. And SEO is very sustainable when you do it right.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. I have not done a great job with SEO across the board, but I have on my YouTube channel, and I have people that find me, you know, a year after I made a video and opt in and move into my lead flow. So it definitely lasts, which is what I love about it. Okay, so let's just chat a little bit here. when people are getting started with their SEO, I think a lot of people are unsure if they can really do it themselves or if they need to have a consultant. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So you can hire a consultant, and I work with, clients. I've had clients for like 9 years, right? And that's great. But there's also, the ability where people can do SEO themselves if they're willing to learn, and anybody can perform SEO. I'm self-taught. The majority of SEO consultants are self-taught. And it's really just positioning yourself into thinking about SEO the right way. And it's, that is really learning about search engines and understanding what they need to be able to be successful. It's focusing on, not yourself, but on who you're serving, right? And I always say that, that's what SEO, really good SEO is about. It's about serving humans, helping people, making people's lives better. And when you take the focus off yourself and you put it more into your target demographic, and you think about what are their needs, what are their pain points, what questions do they have, what solutions are they seeking, SEO starts to fall in place because you're always staying focused on helping Google help the human. And that's, solving their problems, creating quality content, paying attention to like things like an SSL certificate, which doesn't take a lot of time, but it's one thing that's, critical to SEO. And so there's a lot of moving parts in SEO, but at the end of the day, they all still come back to that primary focus of the human visitor, making their lives better and using the web to do that. And when people really reposition or reorient their thinking about search and SEO to more of a human element, then anybody can do it because
I
you're
love
really
that.
focused on the important things.
Help Google, help the humans. That is a brilliant
Absolutely.
line right there. I love it. Okay, we have a great question from Aldo in the chat. He is asking, are some businesses more suited to SEO than others? Customers that buy by referral and don't search the internet, would they still be a good SEO candidate?
So I would tell you that virtually all industries are good for SEO, and there's a few exceptions. But the reason I say that is because most people will say, well, I've never gotten anything in SEO. It's not for me, right? It doesn't apply. It doesn't apply because you've never actually done it right.
Yes.
So, for the most part, referrals and everything else, people search the internet. I mean, everybody searches the internet, whether we're trying to diagnose ourselves or we're trying to find, whatever, a recipe, we're all searching the internet. The industries that SEO is difficult for are ones that are like biotech and pharmaceutical, that are heavily regulated by the FDA and that can only have limited information on their websites. For those industries, pay-per-click is a much better option because you don't have those restrictions of the actual content. But that's really the only industry where I've seen where SEO is not the best fit for because of those governmental limitations. Everything else, it's a great fit because people are searching for those products and you can solve their problems and make their lives better.
And I want to speak to that part in there about if customers are buying through referrals. A lot of times the reason why your business only has referrals, that's the only lead source, is because you just haven't opened up new marketing channels yet, which is why you're at Pipeline, so that you can learn about new options so you don't just rely on referrals. We love referrals, but let's be clear, referrals are inconsistent. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. It's a little out of your hands, whereas SEO is something that you can control more. You control the amount of content that you create. You control how you drive people to it. And Rebecca, when you said anyone can do it, I love that, because the truth is my 13-year-old son does our SEO. And for our YouTube channel, he does our keyword research and finds all of our stuff. And I mean, he did a video this week that's got 600 views, and 95% of that traffic is coming through Google. So Google search. So we love it. And you can learn how to do this. Okay, my last question that I wanted to ask you here is, what's the best place to start when you know SEO is going to be a good fit, but you don't really know a lot about it?
So I would tell you to start with the search engines. Google has a search engine starter guide, which used to be a PDF, and now they have it in their help documents on the web. That's a great place to start. Google's Webmaster Central blog is another place. Setting up Google Search Console, which is a profile on Google, connecting your website and reading about the data that Google's giving you back. Bing has Webmaster Guidelines, and then they also have a Webmaster Tools account that you can set up as well and get feedback from them. They'll tell you things that are wrong on your website that you should be fixing. They'll tell you where you're ranking and what you're doing right. And those are great reference points because the information's accurate. There's a lot of misinformation on the web about SEO. There's old, outdated information. There's consultants that look like they're super knowledgeable, but they outsource it all to guest writers, and they contradict themselves from one day to the next. It's like, you need to set all of those people apart and don't, that's not how I want you to learn SEO. I want you to go to the search engines because that information's accurate. It's going to really help position you into doing the right thing, and it will also keep you safe in the process.
I love it. And you've got some requests in the chat here for you to actually drop some of those links in. So when we wrap up here, if you can drop those links in for them. They're digging it. They're getting the value of SEO. I love it. I will also add on there, a really great resource would be just to reach out to Rebecca, because if any of you are like me, sometimes I learn better from someone, teaching me and working with me through the process than just turning myself loose on a bunch of articles that may have terms I don't understand. So my learning style is definitely, I do a lot better having a coach to walk me through that process. And if any of you learn like I do, I would highly recommend reaching out to Rebecca. So Rebecca, with that in mind, what's the best way for our audience to get in touch with you?
Sure. So RebeccaGill.com is my personal website, and we'll link over to my agency or our membership site or even our free Facebook group where I interact with daily. So that's the best place, RebeccaGill.com.
Awesome. I'm going to be going because we have started doing well with this on YouTube, but we haven't done well with it through our website. And I think it's time to make some more, let it be our next level. So I'm excited to get connected with you. And thank you so much for being on. We really appreciate it.